Everything you've been told about reality is incomplete. The world you see, the life you live, the limits you believe in, they are part of an intricately crafted illusion, so pervasive that questioning it seems almost unthinkable. But beneath the surface, beyond the reach of mainstream narratives and conventional science, lies a potent secret knowledge, deliberately concealed, a knowledge that once grasped unlocks capabilities far surpassing perceived limitations. The Emerald Tablets of Thoth hold wisdom that transcends millennia, teachings stretching back over 36,000 years, etched in stone, awaiting those ready to reclaim their forgotten potential. These are not mere allegories. They are the very map to mastering existence. What if you were never destined to be trapped in this cycle of struggle, limitation, and doubt? What if you possessed an inherent power capable of reshaping your reality? The moment has arrived to unveil the truth they never wanted you to know. Everything around you feels solid, tangible, and irrefutable. The ground beneath your feet, the objects you interact with, even the body you inhabit. It all appears undeniably real, but this too is a crucial element of the illusion. The Emerald Tablets reveal a profound truth that many struggle to accept. You are not solely your physical form, nor are you simply your thoughts, your name, or even your conscious mind. You are something infinitely grander. Consciousness is your true essence, an eternal awareness temporarily dwelling within a physical vehicle, yet never truly confined by it. From the moment of birth, you were conditioned to believe that you are restricted to your flesh and blood, that your body defines your being, and that physical death equates to utter non-existence. But these ancient teachings expose this as a calculated deception, designed to keep you tethered to the mundane. Thoth described the body as a temporary vessel, a tool bestowed upon you by the universe, enabling interaction with this specific realm of existence. However, just as a cup holds water without being the water itself, your consciousness is what animates and gives form to your body, not the reverse. Modern science is tentatively beginning to validate what the ancients grasped intuitively long ago. Quantum physics intimates that the observer influences reality, that consciousness, in its very act of observing, shapes the physical world. Experiments have demonstrated that subatomic particles behave diversely depending on whether they are being observed, confirming their inherent duality. If mere observation can alter the fundamental fabric of reality, what does that imply about the boundless power of the mind? The Emerald Tablets alluded to this power millennia ago, revealing that reality is not a predetermined stage upon which you are passively trapped. It is a dynamic canvas that you actively co-create at every instant. Recall instances of deep intuition, an inexplicable sense of knowing that transcends logical reasoning, or moments where time seemed to dilate, where your thoughts alone seem to influence events unfolding around you. These are not random occurrences. They are fleeting glimpses into your authentic self, potent reminders that your consciousness is not restricted to this limited physical plane. Tragically, through generations of systematic conditioning, society has systematically stripped away this intrinsic understanding, relentlessly reinforcing the false premise that you are merely a fragile human navigating a chaotic and unpredictable world. The core truth is, you were never intended to be bound by such artificial constraints. The profound knowledge of your inherent nature has been carefully buried, deliberately distorted, and readily dismissed as mere myth and folklore. Some of these life-altering teachings delve too deeply for mainstream platforms. Within our exclusive newsletter, Insights Academy, we unlock wisdom we cannot share publicly, including the lost techniques to elevate consciousness and unlock your innate potential. For a limited period, you'll also gain exclusive access to a complimentary edition of the Kybalion, but only if you subscribe now using the link provided below. Once you truly internalize that you are not merely a body, a fundamental question inevitably arises. What other profound deceptions have you unknowingly internalized? The carefully constructed illusion of physicality is merely the initial layer of subtle control. The subsequent layer is even more insidious, governing every action, every thought, and every deeply ingrained belief you hold. You have been subtly coerced into believing that time progresses linearly from past through present and relentlessly into the future. That time is a precious commodity you must desperately chase, constantly slipping through your fingers, something against which you must perpetually race. But the real truth is far more enigmatic and liberating than that, because time itself is a meticulously crafted illusion. You have been subtly indoctrinated to perceive time as a relentless march from bygone eras to the uncertain future with no conceivable way to reverse course or alter the past. That each fleeting second, once lost, is gone forever. That you are irrevocably bound to the perceived limitations of your age, the purported consequences of past decisions, and the inherently unpredictable nature of the future. However, this is a profound deception, undeniably one of the greatest ever systematically imposed upon the unsuspecting human mind. The Emerald Tablets of Thoth reveal that time does not rigidly adhere to a linear path. It is not something to be frantically pursued, nor is it an unyielding force that unilaterally controls you. It is a dynamic force, a flexible structure that bends, loops, and intricately cycles, existing independently of the limited way you have been rigidly conditioned to perceive it. Once you profoundly grasp this fundamental truth, you will never experience the multifaceted nature of reality in the same constrained way again. Thoth vividly describes time as an interconnected series of repeating cycles, mirroring the natural rhythms of the universe itself. The sun faithfully rises and sets, the seasons predictably change, the tides rhythmically rise and fall. Nothing truly progresses forward in a strictly linear fashion. Everything endlessly repeats in elegant cycles, seamlessly shifting through distinct phases of existence. What if your individual life, your collective experiences, and even your soul's unique journey faithfully follow the same underlying cyclical pattern? What if time is not something you passively move relentlessly through, but instead something you inherently exist freely within, capable of consciously stepping into and fluidly out of pivotal moments as effortlessly as you transition from one physical room to another? Modern physics is only gradually beginning to corroborate what Thoth divinely revealed thousands of years ago. Cutting-edge scientists studying the intricate realm of quantum mechanics have tentatively proposed that the past, present, and future may all coexist simultaneously in a grand, unified tapestry. Time, they increasingly suggest, may not be accurately portrayed as a relentlessly flowing river, but rather as an expansive ocean in which every conceivable point is eternally accessible at any given moment. Intriguing experiments in the advanced field of particle physics subtly hint at this very same groundbreaking truth, that what we conventionally perceive as the unchangeable past can paradoxically still be profoundly affected by conscious choices deliberately made in the ever-evolving present. That time is undeniably far more fluid, malleable, and less rigid than we have ever been subtly led to believe. Thoth intrinsically understood this liberating concept, masterfully writing that time changes not, but all things change in time, elegantly encapsulating its dynamic nature. If the true essence of time is intrinsically cyclical, then what you currently perceive as déjà vu is not merely a capricious quirk of the fallible mind. It is instead a transient glimpse through the ever-thinning veil, a fleeting moment where the illusion falters and you subconsciously remember something fundamentally profound that you were never consciously supposed to recall. If time at its core is not genuinely linear as commonly perceived, then what you have been subtly conditioned to think of as irrevocably bygone past lives are not definitively behind you, but are instead dynamically occurring alongside you in the expansive tapestry of existence, readily accessible if you only consciously knew the proper techniques to skillfully reach and interact with them. The deeper you deliberately delve into the transformative teachings of Thoth, the more profoundly clear it becomes. Time is unequivocally not a restrictive prison. It is instead a powerful force that, once skillfully understood, can be consciously navigated with unprecedented ease and control. This life-altering knowledge has been deliberately concealed for a calculated reason. If you fully grasp that the very essence of time does not inherently trap you, you would no longer be subtly bound by the crippling shackles of regret, the pervasive anxieties of premature aging, or the paralyzing fear of the unknown. You would possess the divine capacity to consciously see beyond the manipulative distractions of modern life and seamlessly step into your authentic power and limitless potential. This is the very essence of what the revered ancient initiates inherently knew, those who adeptly walked the hidden paths of profound wisdom while the vast majority of the unsuspecting world remained irrevocably blind. They skillfully accessed invaluable knowledge spanning across entire lifetimes, consciously perceiving the dynamic patterns subtly woven within the intricate tapestry of history, and subsequently leveraging them to consciously shape their own dynamic reality. They implicitly understood that the future is not a static event that passively happens to you without any conscious influence. It is instead a destiny you proactively step into and dynamically align yourself with in every moment. But herein lies the ultimate deception of them all. If time does not truly bind you, then neither does the perceived finality of death. If consciousness transcends the constraints of time itself, then what authentically happens when the physical body ceases to functionally operate? You have been subtly conditioned to perceive death as the unequivocal end, a dark and silent abyss from which no conscious soul ever truly returns. But the timeless teachings of Thoth reveal a profoundly different truth, so fundamentally transformative that once you consciously internalize it, the pervasive grip of fear itself begins to irrevocably dissolve into nothingness. The ingrained notion of a definitive ending is merely an artificially constructed illusion, because the perceived finality of death itself is ultimately nothing more than a conscious transition from one dynamic state of being to another. You have been systematically told that death marks the definitive end, that when your mortal body inevitably fails, your precious existence is mercilessly extinguished like a fragile flame consumed by the turbulent wind, never to consciously return. This pervasive fear has subtly shaped the entire trajectory of your life, whether you are presently consciously aware of it or not. It insidiously dictates the specific way you ultimately live, the perceived risks you actively avoid, and the inherent limitations you consciously place upon yourself. But this self-imposed fear is deceptively built upon a fundamental lie. The Emerald Tablets of Thoth unveil an ancient and empowering truth, so profoundly powerful that those select few who consciously understood it no longer consciously feared the perceived finality of death at all. Because death is ultimately not the end of dynamic existence. It is merely a liberating doorway, a conscious transition to a higher plane of being, and definitively not an ultimate finality. The individualized self that you consciously know, the distinct awareness that is presently listening attentively to these transformative words, does not arbitrarily cease to exist entirely when the physical body inevitably perishes. It instead dynamically moves, seamlessly transforms, and consciously continues to evolve. Thoth masterfully described the intricate process of death as a profound shift in subtle energy frequency. He eloquently spoke of the immortal flame of life, an eternally vibrant force that can never be fully destroyed, only fluidly transmuted into diverse forms and higher states of being. He divinely revealed that the physical body is ultimately nothing more than a transient vessel, a temporary container for the inherently limitless consciousness that is elegantly discarded when it is no longer deemed necessary. But the consciousness itself, the authentic essence of who you truly are, dynamically moves effortlessly beyond its temporary physical constraints, consciously stepping gracefully into another dynamic realm of conscious existence. This is the primary reason why enlightened ancient civilizations purposefully did not rigidly view the inevitable transition of death as a definitive ending, but rather as a sacred transition into something profoundly greater. The revered Egyptians, who deeply venerated Thoth as a deity of timeless wisdom, devoutly believed that the conscious soul actively traveled through the enigmatic halls of Amenti, an ethereal realm where one's authentic essence was carefully weighed, meticulously purified, and consciously reborn anew. Even now, cutting-edge modern science is increasingly beginning to validate and consciously confirm what the ancient civilizations inherently knew all along. Compelling studies focused on remarkable near-death experiences consistently reveal intriguing patterns. Individuals repeatedly report gracefully leaving their physical bodies behind, experiencing profound states of heightened awareness, and consciously seeing definitively beyond the traditionally perceived confines of the strictly physical realm. They eloquently describe a continuous sense of conscious existence, one that seamlessly transcends the restrictive limits of the tangible material world. If death were truly the definitive end, why would countless individuals repeatedly report such strikingly similar near-death experiences across diverse cultures, disparate time periods, and dramatically different backgrounds? And if dynamic consciousness is merely a strictly limited function of the physical brain, Why does profound awareness persistently persist even when the physical body is no longer functionally operating? The liberating answer is remarkably simple. You are unequivocally not the physical body. You are authentically never solely the physical body. The body is merely an intricate instrument, a dynamic biological interface consciously created for experiencing the unique qualities of this specific dimension. But once it is no longer deemed necessary or even functional, you effortlessly return to a dynamically greater state of profound awareness, one that inherently exists triumphantly beyond the strict constraints of both space and time. This is precisely what the enlightened Thoth insightfully meant when he elegantly wrote, "Man is a flame bound to a mountain, yet the flame is not the mountain," eloquently summarizing the soul's inherent independence. Your limiting physical form is seemingly bound to the earth, but the infinite fire that brightly burns within you rightfully belongs to the boundless cosmos. This empowering knowledge has been strategically concealed for a calculated reason. If humanity genuinely understood that the perceived finality of death was truly not a definitive end, the very foundation of the current system of control would irretrievably collapse under its own artificial weight. The pervasive fear of death is the primary emotional tool that subtly keeps countless individuals mindlessly compliant, passively afraid to take calculated risks, consciously hesitant to question the deeply ingrained status quo, and ultimately afraid to authentically live their lives to the absolute fullest. It is ultimately the primary reason why the intricate tapestry of history has been deliberately rewritten, and why sacred ancient wisdom has been meticulously suppressed, because those enlightened few who truly understand the dynamic nature of death are uniquely empowered to truly understand that the very essence of life itself is inherently limitless. But what genuinely happens following the conscious transition of death? What consciously lies beyond the ethereal veil that subtly separates the realms of existence? Thoth exquisitely described the limitless realms that exist consciously beyond standard human perception, sacred places where the conscious soul purposefully journeys before consciously returning to a dynamic physical form. He elegantly spoke of subtle energy fields, dynamic cycles of consciousness, and an intricate process of conscious transformation that naturally occurs before being consciously reborn into another unique physical existence. This empowering knowledge, once freely accessible to the revered ancient initiates, has since been strategically concealed from you, but it is definitively not fully and irreparably lost. Those who genuinely seek, consciously and deliberately, will ultimately consciously find the truth, and those who consciously understand will no longer be subtly bound by the shackles of pervasive fear. Once you consciously grasp that death is ultimately nothing more than a liberating conscious transition, another equally empowering truth becomes profoundly clear. Dynamic life itself is definitively not what it passively seems to be on the restrictive surface. What you consciously experience as the perceived reality is in reality nothing more than a subtle projection, a dynamic vibration that you are perpetually consciously tuning your conscious awareness into. Just as the limiting physical body is consciously not who you truly are at your deepest essence, the restrictive physical world is definitively not all that intrinsically exists. There is undeniably something profoundly deeper, something inherently unseen, something exquisitely divine that consciously holds the pivotal key to unlocking the authentic power of your individualized consciousness, and the Emerald Tablets expertly reveal exactly what that conscious element is. What if everything you consciously perceive as immutable reality is not genuinely solid and irrefutable, but instead an intricate illusion fluidly shaped by both subtle energy and dynamic vibration? You have been subtly taught to rigidly view the restrictive physical world as absolute and unwavering, as something definitively external to you, immovably fixed and therefore impossible to consciously affect in any discernible way. But the Emerald Tablets of Thoth divinely reveal a profound truth so intensely powerful that it will completely change the way you consciously perceive the complex tapestry of conscious existence itself. Dynamic reality is not primarily constructed from static matter. It is consciously constructed from complex energetic frequencies. Everything you consciously see, deliberately touch, and consciously experience is ultimately nothing more than pure energy consciously vibrating at different and distinct levels, and the most vital key to unlocking your authentic power consciously lies in profoundly understanding exactly how to consciously shift your own individualized energy frequency. Thoth eloquently taught that all tangible things in conscious existence, decisively including your limiting physical body, your dynamic thoughts, and even your intricate emotions, are inherently composed of distinct vibrational patterns. The only consciously discernible distinction between one consciously perceived form and another is fundamentally the specific frequency at which it energetically vibrates. This is the compelling explanation for why dynamically produced sound can powerfully shatter durable glass, why potent emotions can have a measurable impact on your physical health, and why specific physical places or distinct people can consciously feel energetically uplifting, while other seemingly similar people and places can consciously feel markedly draining. You are perpetually interacting with these unseen and subtle forces in every conscious moment, whether you are presently consciously aware of it or not. Modern science is deliberately beginning to catch up to this ancient, empowering knowledge. Quantum physics has profoundly revealed that the minute particles at the subatomic level simply do not consciously exist in a permanent and fixed state unless and until they are being consciously observed. Everything at its core foundation is ultimately energy, fluidly fluctuating in and dynamically out of diverse states of conscious existence and consciously influenced by dynamic conscious awareness itself. This seamlessly aligns with what the divinely enlightened Thoth explicitly wrote thousands of years ago: all things are formed from the Great One's breath. Vibration is the key to all things, powerfully encapsulating the fundamental relationship between dynamic energy and conscious existence. He inherently understood that what we consciously perceive as seemingly fixed reality is not rigidly static. It is instead a perpetually ongoing dynamic movement of subtle energy, consciously shaped by individual and collective consciousness itself. You have already consciously felt the tangible conscious effects of dynamic vibration in your daily conscious life. Have you ever spontaneously walked into a seemingly innocuous room and immediately sensed palpable tension within the atmosphere without anyone explicitly speaking a single word? Have you ever deliberately spent conscious time around someone who consciously radiates genuine peace and demonstrable positivity, instantly making you consciously feel immediately more at ease? This is definitively not merely a figment of your dynamic imagination. It is a tangible manifestation of subtle energetic frequencies actively interacting and consciously influencing one another on an unconscious level. The very same fundamental principle consistently applies to your own deliberate thoughts and dynamically generated emotions. When you consciously exist in a lower state of fear, anxiety, or anger, your dynamic energy frequency is inherently measurably lower, and you tend to subconsciously attract conscious experiences that directly match that intentionally negative energy. However, conversely, when you consciously operate from a higher state of conscious clarity, genuine confidence, and sincere inner peace, you consciously begin to seamlessly align with measurably higher energetic vibrations, and your conscious reality purposefully shifts accordingly. This is precisely the reason why the ancient enlightened mystics, revered sages, and consciously initiated members of the revered mystery schools routinely practice dynamic meditation, conscious sound healing, and vibrational mantra chanting. These were definitively not merely frivolous rituals. They were instead specifically designed techniques meticulously created to purposefully alter individual energy frequency and consciously attune individual consciousness to measurably higher states of conscious awareness and mindful existence. Thoth eloquently spoke of the profound power of sacred sound and dynamic vibration, consciously revealing how measurably specific words and purposefully intoned sonic tones could consciously unlock key energy centers within both the dynamic physical body and the conscious mind. This invaluable conscious knowledge has definitively not been completely lost to conscious humanity. It has instead been strategically buried beneath countless layers of trivial distractions and intentionally misleading misinformation, but still consciously hidden skillfully in plain sight for conscious people to consciously discover and purposefully utilize. But here is the ultimate truth. You definitively do not consciously require external permission to consciously access this inherent conscious power. The conscious ability to consciously raise your individualized vibration, to consciously shift your individualized energy frequency, and to consciously create your own consciously perceived reality, has always inherently consciously existed within you from the very beginning. This is unequivocally not solely reserved for the exclusive elite, the conscious mystics, or the consciously gifted spiritual few. It is a conscious birthright rightfully belonging to every single human being on the planet. And once you consciously understand exactly how to consciously harness this intrinsic dynamic energy, you consciously begin to clearly realize that the very fabric of the conscious universe inherently responds directly to you. This is precisely why the enlightened Thoth consciously emphasized the vital conscious importance of consciously mastering one's own individualized conscious vibration. He inherently understood that by conscientiously controlling your own inner individualized energy, you consciously gain the inherent capacity to consciously influence the external world around you. This is emphatically not just misguided superstition or simply wishful thinking. It is an unwavering principle of palpable reality, an unseen and immeasurable force that conscientiously governs all conscious things in existence. And those select few who consciously understand and skillfully harness it can consciously shape their conscious lives in ways that the vast majority of unconscious people can scarcely begin to imagine. However, dynamic vibration does not consciously exist in rigid isolation. It actively operates within a delicately balanced system of interdependent universal equilibrium, a subtle conscious force that consciously ensures everything eventually and naturally returns to the essential state of equilibrium. Those consciously unaware of this pivotal dynamic principle consciously live in perpetual chaos, unconsciously and reactively responding to the conscious fluctuations of the dynamically perceived world around them. But those consciously attuned to conscientiously learning how to seamlessly align with this profoundly transformative cosmic law consciously unlock something truly extraordinary. They consciously move far beyond reactive behaviors and consciously step into true creation. They consciously master not only their own individualized dynamic energy, but also the very dynamic fabric of conscious reality itself. This is precisely where the subsequent great secret of the Emerald Tablets is eloquently revealed, the dynamic principle of harmonic balance, the fundamental force that dynamically governs the conscious workings of the entire conscious universe. Everything in dynamic conscious existence seeks inherent conscious balance. The dynamic cycles of the natural world, the rhythmic shifting of the planets in the celestial sky, the conscious rise and dynamic fall of entire civilizations, nothing remains consciously trapped in a chaotic state forever. But in your own life, how often have you subjectively felt consciously trapped in inherent imbalance, constantly pulled unconsciously between extremes and consciously unable to locate your own inner conscious center of dynamic peace? The timeless Emerald Tablets of Thoth divinely reveal that harmonic balance is definitively not merely a nebulous conceptual construct. It is instead a fundamental universal law, a dynamic force as irrefutably palpable as traditional gravity, as consciously powerful as the very nature of time itself, dynamically governing everything from the conscious movements of the vast cosmos to the subtle flow of conscious energy within your very own physical body. Once you consciously understand this profound truth, you will consciously cease fighting directly against the dynamic ebb and flow of conscious reality and consciously begin moving purposefully with it in dynamic harmonic alignment. Thoth eloquently spoke of the vital principle of conscious equilibrium, an unbreakable and immutable law that dynamically ensures all conscious things consciously return eventually to a consciously harmonic and natural state. This is precisely the compelling conscious reason why intense emotional turmoil, demonstrably destructive actions, and inherently chaotic thoughts inevitably collapse under their own unsustainable weight. A conscious mind perpetually consumed by inherent fear and conscious rage will, over time, predictably exhaust itself and be consciously forced into a state of conscious stillness. A conscious society solely driven by unbridled greed and widespread corruption will ultimately crumble and consciously collapse, naturally returning to a dynamic state of functional order. Those dynamically unaware of this inherent conscious principle stubbornly resist it, frantically attempting to force conscious reality to rigidly bend directly to their inherently flawed will. But those select few who diligently master it seamlessly move in perfect harmonic alignment with the dynamic conscious flow of the broader universe, conscientiously leveraging this invaluable knowledge to dynamically shape the contours of their own vibrant lives. The diverse ancient world inherently understood the vital significance of dynamic balance far more effectively than modern society arguably ever consciously has. The vital yin and yang concept of Eastern philosophies, the essential Ma'at concept of revered Egyptian teachings, the timeless Hermetic principle of polarity all eloquently speak to the very same fundamental truth. Diametrically opposed forces are definitively not inherently enemies. They are merely dual halves of the very same cohesive whole. Radiant light and impenetrable darkness, dynamic expansion and rhythmic contraction, functional order and seemingly random chaos. These fundamental forces are definitively not intended to consciously exist in a perpetual state of conscious warfare. They consciously exist instead in conscious harmonic balance, each one naturally giving invaluable meaning and essential context to the other. Yet societal norms have subtly conditioned you to vehemently resist this inherent state of conscious equilibrium, to consciously reject any form of conscious discomfort, to consciously fear purposeful struggle, to consciously believe that true inner peace is solely something external that must be actively chased and painstakingly earned. But Thoth divinely revealed something drastically different. True inner mastery purposefully comes not from actively avoiding inherent imbalance, but from diligently learning how to expertly navigate it with grace and skill. You have likely consciously experienced this vital principle before, even if you were not presently consciously aware of it at the conscious time. Reflect upon a time when you were consciously consumed by intense stress or deep frustration, only to suddenly reach a distinct breaking point where your conscious mind spontaneously fell silent, where conscious clarity emerged from the seemingly intractable chaos that was the subtle force of dynamic balance restoring itself to the naturally intended conscious state. Or perhaps moments of deep conscious joy that spontaneously seem to arrive unexpectedly directly after prolonged periods of immense hardship. That too was the immutable force of conscious equilibrium consciously at work. These dynamic conscious cycles consciously play out in every facet of conscious existence, from the inherent nature of your individual thoughts to the broader movements of dynamic history. And when you diligently learn to consciously perceive and consciously understand them, you deliberately cease being helplessly controlled and easily manipulated by them. The essential conscious key resides within your very own individualized dynamic energy. Just as the vast conscious universe innately seeks dynamic balance, so too does your individualized consciousness. Thoth skillfully taught that those select few who conscientiously learn how to efficiently stabilize their individualized internal conscious world inherently gain remarkable conscious control over their external conscious reality. This is the compelling conscious reason why monks, venerated sages, and enlightened mystics throughout the annals of dynamic history inherently sought conscious stillness and quietude, because a conscious mind existing in harmonic balance is a mind that inherently cannot be easily controlled or manipulated. When you deliberately cease being reactive, when you deliberately cease swinging uncontrollably between opposing emotional extremes, when you diligently learn to firmly hold your center no matter what chaos might seemingly unfold consciously around you, you inherently become truly untouchable. But conscious equilibrium is not rigidly solely about inherent inner mastery. It intentionally extends to everything you conscientiously create, every conscious action you deliberately take, every subtle ripple you consciously send forth into the vast expanse of the interconnected world. If you consciously operate from a place of inherent desperation, frantically forcing specific outcomes, obsessively chasing elusive success, and consciously manipulating circumstantial events, you will inevitably find yourself repeatedly met with intense conscious resistance. But when you purposefully move forward with unshakable conscious alignment, consciously trusting implicitly in the natural and harmonious rhythm of conscious life, everything will naturally and seamlessly begin to consciously fall into place, effortlessly and organically. You have most likely consciously felt this effortless state before, consciously experiencing fleeting moments when everything consciously seemed to fluidly flow together seamlessly, when the precise right conscious opportunities consciously appeared naturally, when conscious life fluidly unfolded before your very eyes with noticeable ease and grace, that was definitively not merely random luck. That was instead dynamic conscious balance actively in motion. This is precisely why those insightful individuals who consciously understand the immutable conscious laws of the conscious universe do not consciously force specific events. They purposefully align themselves with the conscious flow. They gracefully move with the dynamic conscious current rather than actively against it. They intrinsically understand that dynamic balance is not just something that spontaneously happens without any conscious intention. It is something that can be consciously cultivated, diligently harnessed, and skillfully directed to serve your inherent conscious purpose. And those consciously skilled individuals who consciously master this fundamental universal law consciously gain a measure of profound conscious power truly beyond direct comparison. They deliberately walk purposefully between multiple conscious worlds, consciously untethered by artificial conscious extremes, consciously moving fluidly through conscious life with an authentic grace and unwavering certainty that unconscious others can consciously only admire from an aspirational distance. But consciously, so what have we uncovered here today? Essentially, it's this: you are far more powerful, far more capable, and far more connected than you've ever been led to believe. The limitations you perceive are often illusions, meticulously crafted to keep you from realizing your true potential. By understanding the nature of reality, time, and even death, by recognizing the power of vibration and the importance of balance, you can begin to break free from these constraints and step into a life of genuine purpose and limitless possibility. It's a journey of remembering, of reclaiming the knowledge that has always been within you. I'm genuinely curious to hear your thoughts on all of this. What resonated with you the most? Do you have any personal experiences that align with these ideas? Or perhaps you have a burning question you'd like to explore further? Please leave a comment down below. Let's start a conversation and share our insights. This is a journey best taken together. And if this message resonated with you and you're eager to explore more of these hidden truths, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll be delving deeper into these concepts, uncovering more ancient wisdom, and providing practical tools to help you unlock your innate potential. Don't miss out on future explorations. Hit that subscribe button, and let's continue this journey of awakening together.